Oh, no. So good morning to the Transportation Committee meeting at SANDAG. We're going to be a little bit late because we need quorum and there's some traffic issues for members coming. So maybe another 5 minutes. Well, good morning, and welcome to the July 19th, 2024 Transportation Committee meeting. And it's called to order. First, I would like to ask the interpreter to explain how to access the interpretation. So please go ahead.
Announcement from interpreter. To use the interpretation feature, please scroll to the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting controls are. Click on the interpretation icon, world, and select English as your language. If you are joining through the Zoom mobile app, cell phone, tablet, etc., please press the ellipsis, then interpretation, and then choose your language. Finally, click on mute original audio to not hear the original Spanish low in the background. Headsets are available for interpretation. If you are in the meeting room, please check out a headset from the receptionist in the lobby. Aviso por parte del intérprete. Para hacer uso del servicio de interpretación, favor de desplazarse a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom, donde aparecen los controles. Haga clic en el icono de interpretación, globo terráqueo, y seleccione Spanish, español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom, celular, tableta, etc., presione los puntos suspensivos, luego interpretación y luego el idioma. Si no desea escuchar el audio original en inglés en el fondo, por favor seleccione Mute Original Audio, silenciar audio original. Contamos con auriculares disponibles para el servicio de interpretación. Si se encuentra en la sala de reunión, favor de pedir auriculares con la recepcionista en el vestíbulo. Thank you.
Thank you. And next will be a land acknowledgement. This is new for our committee, but not new to SANDAG. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the land that we call home. The tribal nations of the San Diego region has historically faced injustices. We acknowledge the harmony that exists between the land, nature, and the original peoples who have since endured displacement, persecution, and systemic oppression. We pay our respect to the unceded territory and homelands of the 18 tribal nations in our region, the most in any county in the United States. From the cultural groups of the Kumeyaay, Durango, Luiseño, Cupino, and the Kuya. This land has nourished, healed, and protected and embraced them for many generations in a relationship to, of the balance and harmony, in relationship and in harmony. As members of the SANDAG community, we acknowledge this legacy. We aspire to learn from the indigenous traditions and knowledge and experiences in undoing the injustice of the past. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So this morning, I'm going to start with a few presentations. Or
Just
oh,
that mic more.
we'll do at least the mics. Okay, so I want to take a moment to recognize two members of the Freeway Service Patrol statewide program. The Freeway Service Patrol program helps improve safety for stranded motorists and reduce traffic congestion during peak hours by assisting stranded motorists and removing disabled vehicles rapidly from our region's most congested freeways. On average, more than 87,000 motorists are assisted annually across the 222 miles of freeways in the San Diego region. With that, I want to recognize, let's see. I'm going to take Mike Morawski first. Mike's a Freeway Service Patrol Fleet Supervisor, and he's here today. Great. So let me say a few things about Mike. Mike joined the team in 1994, and throughout his 30-year tenure, has had a significant impact on safety as well as being a member of our community. Congratulations, Mike, and to your retirement. So you get to be lucky and get retired. He's going to the podium. Am I supposed to go up there and give it to him? Congratulations, Mike.
Thank you.
Thanks for your service.
Thank you.
And happy retirement.
Thanks.
You want to say a few words?
I mean, I started with the FSP program 30 years ago. It was a small group of people. We only had, at that time, 8 trucks out there. Now it's grown to almost 30 trucks. Like I said, I've been from the low end up to management. Helped Aaron grow the program to where it's at now. It was just great working with all the people and helping people out there on the freeway.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mike. There's another word, but we may table that until Mr. Morales can be here. With that, we can move on to Francisca, I just want to confirm that we have a quorum now?
Thank you, Chair. We do have a quorum.
Oh, I'm going to go back. Sorry. So let me say a few things about so I'm pleased to recognize California Highway Patrol Officer Omar Morales. Thank you for your 6 years of service, demonstrating outstanding leadership and dedication to the freeway safety of our region's roadways, and congratulations on your promotion within the CHP. So let me give this to you, and you could say a few words as well.
Thank you very much, sir.
Congratulations, Omar.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Our Board of Division Office to the rank of sergeant.
Great. You could say a few words.
Yes, you know, it's a true honor to receive this award. It was a privilege to work with the FSP program and all the officers and personnel that work there. So thank you for such an excellent program that's assisted so many people on our roadways.
Thank you. Congratulations both Omar and Mike. Francisca, do we have a quorum now?
Yes, we do. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. With that, we'll go on to non-agendized public comment, and members, as a reminder to our public commenters, no comments shall be loud, threatening, profane, or abusive language that disrupts the orderly conduct of the meeting will be tolerated. Any such language or any disorderly conduct that disrupts and disturbs or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of the board meetings is prohibited. Per our board policy, the amount of time allowed for each verbal public comment is determined based on the number of agenda items, the complexity of those items, and the number of persons anticipated to offer comments. This allows us to hear from as many people as possible and to complete the business while we still have a quorum. Based on those factors for today's meeting, each member of the public will be allowed 1 minute for their comments. So Francisca, do we have any non-agendized public comments?
Thank you, Chair. We do. First, I'd like to call Robert up to the podium. And after Robert, we'll go to the folks on Zoom. I'd like to remind the public, as noted on the agenda, we'll take the first 5 public commenters at the top of the meeting and then the remainder at the end. So after, I don't see Robert coming to the podium. All right, I'm going to go ahead and call the people on Zoom. Robert, if you are still in the room, please do step up to the podium and I'll take you next. We'll start with Alex Wong and then go to Blair Beekman.
Put quality before quantity. Quality before quantity is about maximizing frequency and reliability on the busiest existing urban lines before building new routes in sprawling suburbia. That's why I'm concerned about Rapid 277, which will serve Ramona, Poway, and Sabre Springs. That area is sprawling, exurban, and transit hostile, and there is no serious attempt to densify the area. Rapid 277 will consequently struggle with low ridership, have very high operating cost per passenger, and worsen MTS's fiscal crisis. Instead of Rapid 277, our region's first priority ought to be increasing Green Line and Orange Line frequencies to 7.5 minutes or better. Mission Valley needs as much trolley frequency as possible. By 2050, Mission Valley could have as many people as Ramona and Poway combined, at many times the density of Poway. NCTV's busiest route is the Sprinter, but it only runs every 30 minutes. That's unacceptable. The Sprinter needs at least 15-minute frequencies as soon as possible, and we need to do all that before we build a bus line to Ramona.
Thank you, Robert. If you'd like to go ahead and step up to the podium now, we'll take your comments.
Hi, thank you very much. I'm trying to unload a slideshow through the Zoom and on my tablet over to you guys. I have it in paper form if you want that. Otherwise, can I defer to the end of the meeting? And maybe we get the text working on it right now. That's my comment.
Sure, you can. The meeting may run long today, as well as the many of members of the committee may have to leave early as well. So you could, your choice when you want to go now or later. You can also, email your comments and then written materials and graphics to the clerk, and the clerk can forward it to all the committee members.
Okay, well, think about that. I called about this and I'm trying to follow procedure. But okay, thank you. I'll still defer to the end because I'm down here and I'm from Lakeside.
Go on to the next speaker then.
Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Blair Beekman, who will be followed by Alan C.
Hi, Blair Beekman. As an option, maybe the person can speak and not use his visual presentation, if that's possible as well, so he can go at the beginning of the meeting. Blair Beekman, thanks for the meeting today. Thank you as always. I've learned such important lessons from SANDAG persons, board persons, about if we work towards openness and accountability at the local level, it simply works towards ideas of open democracy and peace. And it simply gives great examples to ourselves and to the world, how to work in good terms and how to build positive sustainability that, other countries of the world at war at this time really need. Good luck to those continued good efforts. We're doing some great work on border issues and negotiation. And I think it's an awesome example for the world that people like from the Trump camp really need to see. And we have to think of that in the upcoming election process. Thank you for your incredible good work with border issues.
Our next speaker will be Alan C., followed by Ryan Stock.
Good morning, sound check. Can you hear me okay?
We can, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Francesca. I sent you another email. The PowerPoint 28 page from last week is still not on the website. If you could please email me that, and please put it public record from last week's board directors 10 a.m. meeting, still not on there. Concerning the guy with the media PowerPoint issues, we can put PowerPoints on the screen for all the public, for the speakers. So why don't we do the same for the public as we used to do that? Load the PowerPoints 24 hours ahead of time so you can screen them and have them available, because the public, that's part of the speech. The public presentation, PowerPoint presentation is part of the speech. And concerning last week, that old tie finally looking at the sewage, please push that. That's the only leverage we got to force Mexico to fix their sewage plants, because a hold pond in Tijuana is just going to make pollution worse on our side. Thank you so much, board.
Our next speaker will be Ryan Stock, who will be followed by the original draw. Ryan, you can go ahead.
Hello, sound check.
We can hear you.
Excellent. Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Stock. I'm the president of Beautiful PB. We're a nonprofit that advocates for safe and sustainable infrastructure in Pacific Beach. Today, I wanted to talk about two things. The PD Pathways, which is a network of bike boulevards recognized in Pacific Beach. Right now, they're really just signs. I feel like we need to, kind of not do half measures on these types of things, but go all the way. When we have a bike boulevard, we should be kind of working to design that through the whole stack of good design principles for bike boulevards. And also inform the public of this is what the full vision is. Secondly, and relatedly, getting to the Balboa Avenue station. I know this is a big item, but I really feel like we have a $2.2 billion asset there that is just extremely hard to visit. Right now, it's like an extended parking lot for that gym. And if we could make that whole route so it's very viable to get to the beach from the trolley, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Our final speaker will be the original draw. You can go ahead.
As we, there's anticipation for, more toll roads and things like that. The people already have paid for the roads and should have complete and full access to them at all times without their movements being hindered. And many of the things that you guys do and are working on, especially with the possibility of bringing more toll roads, is actually going to make it harder and more impossible for people to get where they need to go to visit their families, to, even just if they wanted to go on a vacation. And so, this is something that's going to affect all of you. And, as people are in, really hard times, just trying to survive and make ends meet and be able to just provide for their families, adding a toll to their driving is just going to make it so that they're not going to be able to do the things that they need to do. And again, that will bleed into you guys. So, you know, as we talk about this, or, you know, there's plans for it, I would hope that you would think about that and try and course correct.
That concludes the public commenters.
Thank you. Do we have any member comments? General member comments? If seeing none, Mario, it's time for your report.
Thank you. A little bit what also was shared with the board, but general updates. I think the first one is there seems to be an impact worldwide on with some Microsoft systems. So I want to report that here our external systems are functioning well, especially on the 125 and the tolls. We did have a challenge with our administrative system, our ERP. So we're working with the vendor. That's the impact that we have had here in the agency with the recent, with last night's security impacts for in the networks. But our external systems are functioning correctly up to now. General updates, I keep digging in. I think I'm on week 5 here. Quick digging in, we are working on an exercise with all the directors are re-envisioning the organization, reorganizing it, how we can be more focused on delivery and on the agency's priorities and on the board's priorities. And also focusing on meeting with board members and PAC members. So we're working on that. On the Lausanne today, we closed the public review comment that was on the notice of preparation. I don't know if we're already above 900 or 1,000 comments, but it's been a tremendous amount of comments that had come in. So we really appreciate that. And I want to stress my appreciation for North County Transit for inviting us to provide an update at their board meeting. Those exercises are excellent. That provides us opening up and exchanging information, but at the same time receiving information from board members and the public. So we really, really appreciate that. On Otay Mesa East, I think the important thing that we have already highlighted is the board did approve a very complex agreement, revenue sharing agreement amendment with Mexico. I don't know that another agreement of this type exists due to its complexity. So again, we're being trailblazers here in that aspect, but that's a huge endeavor, as well as the agency signed a memorandum of understanding with Customs and Border Protection, moving forward with 100% of the design of the port of entry. So now we need to get to federal agencies to agree to move forward into construction. But that allows us to move forward and the board approve moving forward and bringing this construction general manager contract, CMGC contractor, to start helping us with the design of the port of entry. On the regional plan, the team and Antoinette will be meeting with the Sustainable Communities working groups. This is the working groups that the cities have in order to really dive into the technical items on the regional plan. And then probably this September, we will be coming in with a update to the board in general, what the outcome of the working groups. On the bike program, well, today we have a item number 6. So that will be discussed in depth. And we will be having a really hard discussion on what we can do to move our bike program forward and areas of opportunity of improvement, to be quite honest. I do want to mention and highlight that the Pershing Bikeway grand opening will be this Saturday, July the 27th. 10 a.m. at Bird Park. So we would love to see anybody who wishes to be there. We really would like to do that. We are working with our partner, Caltrans, on bringing in different updates on the major corridors. So those will get scheduled this fall. We're talking about 78 updates, 67 updates, I-5 updates, 805 managed lanes or HOBs. So those will be coming in. We're working with our partner agency on scheduling them to provide really robust updates and discussions on the next steps on all those projects. That concludes my report, sir.
Thank you, Mario. We'll move on to the consent calendar. Any members want a item pulled or have any clarifying questions on any items on consent? Seeing none, we can move on to public comments for consent items. Francesca, do we have any public commenters?
Thank you, Chair. We do. First, I'd like to call Daniela Kennedy and Suna Omar, and then we will go to the original draw.
Kennedy, this is Sohar Mar. We're from University of Southern California. We are Master of Social Work students, and we're here to discuss an important aspect of the transportation system, which is ensuring equitable transit funding and accessibility. As you're reviewing the 2025 budget and program amendments, it's crucial to consider how these decisions impact all segments of our community. While the budget outlines significant increases in allocations, it's essential to ensure that the distribution of resources effectively supports all areas, especially those that have been historically underserved. Equitable access to transit services is vital for connecting residents with job opportunities, education, and essential services. So it's important that the funding formulas are designed to address the needs of low-income and marginalized communities to help close the existing gaps.
To support a more inclusive and effective transit system, we propose the following recommendations. 1, to prioritize equitable fundings, adjust funding formulas to better support communities with greater needs, addressing a gap in transit support and infrastructure. 2, enhance accessibility features. And
Thank you
3,
so much. Your
engage
time has
community.
actually expired. If you have additional comments, you're welcome to email them to me at clerk@sandag.org, and I'd be happy to distribute them for you.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker will be the original draw, followed by Blair Beekman.
I'm a little confused. Didn't they each get a minute? But okay. Yeah, so as far as the transit agency operating budget goes for MTS and NCTD, when we're doing street releases with the illegals crossing the border, and at Iris, there was an influx in ridership, and now not paid ridership, but an influx in numbers of people that were riding. And now that they're dropping them off at the Ramada in Mission Valley, those numbers are no longer there. So I'm wondering if that is affecting the budget at all. If you added that there were, or just your data as far as collecting data on who's riding and what you need for the operating budget. And then when we're talking about the Otay Mesa East Port of Entry, at the Otay Mesa Port of Entry, there's been tunnels that have are actually currently there that they traffic humans and drugs through into the US. So I just want to make sure that that's not going to happen with the East Otay Mesa Port of Entry that is being created, unless you guys are going to be complicit in it.
Our next speaker will be Blair Beekman, followed by Alan C.
Hi, Blair Beekman. You had 2 items on the meeting minutes that were of interest to myself: federal transit dollars, funding dollars, and public safety transit funding issues, programs and projects, I think. About federal funding dollars and any money related to the building of Otay Mesa new border checkpoint things. Tech accountability, if you really want to address and work on that issue, it can help open conversations and ideas, I think, that can be really helpful and interesting. And with other public safety funding dollars to address the needs of trafficking and the needs of, there's another, I can't remember my other issue now, but to deal with human trafficking issues and tech accountability issues, I think can be a really well-balanced approach in how to address our border issues that's much more constructive and positive than the current conversation that we have, in our media. Good luck.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Our next speaker will be Alan C. You can go ahead.
Morning again. Concerning all the budgets you guys are talking about, we also discussed about moving the Del Mar tracks from Oceanside to Sorrento Valley, which alleviates tearing down any home. Mr. Shu, we talked about it. I appreciate you taking the time aside talking to me about it. And yes, please push that forward, because Elon Musk is leaving the state. So good luck trying to get his boring company for your silly tunnels, which is more expensive. So just take care of the whole corridor, not just Del Mar, because you fix Del Mar and the fairgrounds don't want it. Put the entire track adjacent to 805 or I-5 all the way up. You don't have to build any tunnels. You save money. You get it done faster. Safety of the public. Safety of protecting all our homes. I yield back. Thank you.
That concludes the public items on consent. I'm sorry, the public comments.
I have a quick question. For the first speakers that spoke, did they fill out 1 or 2 slips?
Just one.
I'm going to ask that they fill out another slip so they can have another minute for the speaker that didn't get a chance to complete her speak or her statement. You could fill out the slip after you speak, so don't worry about filling out the paperwork now. Just go ahead with it and finish your presentation. Thank you. But you still only have 1 minute, so go ahead.
So to conclude, we were talking about supporting more inclusive and effective transit systems. We proposed the following recommendations. 1, to prioritize equitable funding, adjusting the funding formulas to better support communities with greater needs, addressing gaps in transit service and infrastructures. 2, enhance accessibility features, ensure the new transit project includes well-designed accessibility features, though this might be a secondary consideration for today's agenda. And lastly, 3, engage the community, actively involve community members, especially from underserved areas, in the planning process to ensure their needs are met. Their input invaluable in creating transit solutions that truly meet their needs and improve overall effectiveness. By implementing these recommendations, we can build a more equitable and accessible transit system that benefits everyone in our community. We encourage the Transportation Committee to consider these proposals as you finalize the budget and program amendments. Thank you for your attention. This is an important issue and for your dedication to improve our transportation infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for those comments. We can move on with the consent calendar. This is items 2 through 5 on our agenda for today. We have a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Happy to make the motion, Chair.
Moved by Duncan and seconded by Frank. We can go ahead and vote.
Councilmember Duncan, if you'd like to just state your vote for the record, we'll fix the voting slide after.
Aye, thank you.
Oh, same for Councilmember Moreno.
I vote yes.
Thank you. Then that motion passes unanimously with those members present.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 6, the fiscal year 2025 proposed budget amendment on Transnet Regional Bike Early Action Programs. We have Omar and Michelle. Please go ahead.
There we go. Good morning, Chair Hsu and Transportation Committee. My name is Omar Tai. I'm the Director of Engineering and Construction at SANDAG, and with me is Michelle Smith, who's our Manager of Financial Planning and Budget Control. And today we're talking about the proposed program budget amendment for our Regional Bike Early Action Program. I want to provide a little context before we dive into the details, and this is a regional bikeway map. Our goal here is to create a connected bikeway that really facilitates all ages and abilities to use these bike facilities. In 2013, our board approved 70 miles of bikeway as part of the early action program, and we're looking, we're in the mature stages of that program looking to move that forward. Our bikeway network is comprised of different types of facilities depending on the neighborhoods. Separated bike paths are what you see when they're separated from the roadway, very conducive for families in all ages and abilities like we would like to kind of have participate. Urban bikeways are what we see in and around downtown. And then ultimately, we want all those bikeways to kind of connect together just like you would like a roadway system. So I want to highlight some of the projects that we recently completed. The Georgia Meade Bikeway is in the North Park Mid-City area. And, this bikeway, looking at the picture to the right, it uses a lot of different measures to induce biking and increase pedestrian traffic. So I want to point your attention to the bend outs. Those are the curb turns where the pedestrians would cross on the bottom right and the top left of the picture. What those do is they allow the cyclists to mount that area and get in front of cars. It creates a safer situation because one of the riskiest moves for a cyclist is what we call the right hook, where there's a conflict between right turners and cyclists. And in this situation, the cyclists get to stage further up, so they're in the line of sight. Likewise, the pedestrians are in a safer situation here because the crosswalk is shorter, so the amount of time that they spend in the street is less. Something like this takes considerable engineering effort in that you have to demo the existing curb, you have to rebuild the new curb, you have to, there's a lot of work with traffic control. So it's a significant effort and cost to make that happen. But the numbers really show that it does increase bike ridership by 28%. You see pedestrians, more than 24%. Motor vehicle traffic is down 24%, and motor vehicle speeds are down 20%. And so I just want to highlight this area is a grid area. And so what happens a lot is that when the major roadways get congested, people cut through here. And so providing traffic calming like this actually reduces that and really induces bike and pedestrian travel. I'd like to pivot to the North County. So the Inland Rail Trail, phase 1 and 2 were completed in 2017 and 2021. And it's a bike path, so it's separated, but it parallels the existing sprinter alignment, starting in Escondido, and we've completed all the way to Vista. This is, again, a bike path that's separated from the rail. There's a barrier in between. It really is a situation where, you can go out there with your kids. It's a comfortable situation, not a lot of intersections. But with projects like this, there's also challenges. Working along the railroad is confined. There's limited access points. We've had to do a lot of grading to kind of make the slopes where people would want to ride, because nobody likes to ride up really steep hills. So a lot of infrastructure goes into making a project like this work, but we've completed phase 1 and 2. Phase 3 is currently under construction, and phase 4 will push further will get us to Oceanside, and we're hoping to launch that in 2026. Again, looking at the data, we're seeing we took counts in 2018 and 2022, and so the ridership is more than 5 times, which is very impressive. Pedestrian travel has also doubled. So again, this is, you build it, they will come. Another project I'd like to highlight is the Coastal Rail Trail for Rose Creek. This was delivered along with the Midcoast suite of projects. This filled a vital 2-mile gap. This is a very heavily traveled bike path. And what we did was we were able to create a separated bike path that connected, just south of the 52 and connected to Mission Bay. Bike ridership increased. Look, you see pedestrian travel increase as well, and then the motor vehicle travel decreased. This is a picture of the completed path. So on the right, you see we had to build a significant bridge structure to get over the creek. And on the left is the ribbon cutting. So our ceremony where you see everyone riding it for the first time. This is looking south. So you see the I-5 freeway on the right. You see the bike path that's separated from the roadway in the middle. Santa Fe Street is just to the left of that. And actually in the upper left corner, you can see the rail corridor, which includes the new Mid-Coast line. So I want to pivot now to the projects that we're here to talk about today. So we're trying to continue to build out that network, like we mentioned. Here's a couple maps of the projects that are coming out to construction soon. North Park Mid-City Bikeway for University is on the top middle of the slide here. It's in the college area. It connects to a lot of the bikeways that we're planning or building along the 15 corridor. Uptown Bikeways is the one to the bottom of the slide, and that's the blue lines in that area. So you see the connectivity again to some of the purple lines that have already been constructed. And then on the right, Central Avenue goes along the I-5. It connects to the SR15 Bikeway, which is on the north side, and then it goes north-south, connecting to some of our bikeways that go east and west. And those projects are all slated to come out this summer or winter coming up. So the projects that are out to bid and construction, Uptown Bikeways is in Eastern Hillcrest. This is a much anticipated project, that we've heard from the community. Super excited about this. We'll talk about this more in one of the future slides. In construction, Imperial Bikeway is the bikeway that goes from the 805 to downtown, east and west, in a disadvantaged community. Border to Bayshore is also goes through disadvantaged communities. It starts at the San Isidro Transit Center and gets all the way to the Bayshore Bikeway. And Bayshore Bikeway Barrio Logan is the piece that goes from Naval Base San Diego towards Petco Park. And then Pershing Bikeway, as Mario mentioned, is wrapping up, and we have a ribbon cutting a week from tomorrow. So some of the reasons for the increase in cost. This is the Caltrans cost, construction cost index. And this is a variety of projects that are sampled across the state. And it's a good metric for us because it's similar type projects and materials that are used. And so if you're looking at 2020 as a baseline, of approximately 100, what we've seen in the last quarter is that orange line is a lot of volatility. 27% increase in 2023 alone, 28% increase in this last quarter. So basically what it's telling you is $1 of purchasing power in 2020 is almost $2 today. I want to point out that the grants that we get for these projects are programmed years in advance, and we do forecast escalation, but nobody really could foresee the escalation that we've been experiencing and that we've seen in the last couple of years. And I imagine a lot of your cities are also trying to deal with the same issue with their construction projects. Other factors that causing increases in cost, for the projects in construction, the last 2 years we've seen an unprecedented amount of rain, and we do budget for stormwater measures, but when we have the rainfalls that we've had the last couple of years, there are additional costs that are associated with that. Excuse me. As far as utility conflicts, we do investigations ahead of time, but some of these roads are real old roads, and some of these utilities were unmarked. And so when the contractor comes to a utility that's unmarked and has to be dealt with, there's an additional cost associated with that. And likewise, with unsuitable soils, we do soil testing, but sometimes there's pockets of soils that are unsuitable, and so there's an extra cost associated with disposing of that properly. Bayshore Bikeway Barrio Logan, I want to talk a little bit about that. That's in construction. The map on the left shows the progress that we've made. It's to kind of give context again, Bayshore Bikeway is a 24-mile bike network that goes around the entire San Diego Bay through 5 different cities. This is one of the most complex pieces that are left in that it's along Harbor Drive in front of Naval Base San Diego. We've made 75% progress on it. The picture on the right shows a portion that's been completed. However, we've come across some delays on this project. To point your attention to the north part in green, that part conflicts with the city's sewer replacement project. And so, we've had to put the contractor on pause in order to allow the city to complete their work down there. And likewise, on the southern end, at the 32nd Street intersection, the Navy asked us to hold off on doing some work there. To get into a little bit more detail, so the north part of the project, like I mentioned, on the right is the truck sewer project. The city, initially, when we were planning to go out for construction, it was our understanding that this project was going to be done and complete before we started. Unfortunately, the city, had to rebid the project. They had, once they got the contractor on board, they've suffered some delays. And so what's happening with our project is we're right on top of this project. So the last thing we want to do is build something that's going to be, if we were to go in advance, we'd build it and it would have to be removed with this project. So we're patiently waiting for the city to complete their work. We coordinate with them. We're talking to them monthly in terms of their progress. And, really we need to be out in constructing this portion by spring of next year, because assuming we get a grant extension from the CTC, we need to be complete with construction on Barrio Logan by the end of next year. So we need probably approximately 6 to 8 months to complete the work in this area. One of the mitigation measures we're looking in this area is the city's really working from Park Boulevard and going south. So as they get far enough away from the area to the north and they restore that, we're looking at coming in and working in areas concurrently and kind of progressing southerly as well to kind of shorten that window and make sure that we complete that north portion on time. Focusing your attention to the bridges at 32nd Street in the upper left, you see the pedestrian bridges were from the 1940s. These are old antiquated pedestrian bridges that don't really meet ADA and other codes to date. They conflict with our Bayshore Bikeway alignment, so it was always our intention to remove them, and we had coordinated with the Navy and kind of disclosed that we plan to do so. They had a change in leadership, and they took a look at it, and and we're concerned with, the minimal traffic impacts that were going to be caused. And they asked us to actually hold off for another year on removing those pedestrian bridges. It's our intention to move forward with that removal by the end of this year. We're looking at other mitigation measures with traffic operations to see if we can mitigate any of that, traffic delay that I mentioned. But we work very closely with the Navy on that, and part of our negotiations with the Navy was to offset that was to build a second right turn lane into the naval base to provide us some extra capacity there. Due to the timing of that, there's some utility relocations that need to happen. We phase that out into a separate phase that we plan to move forward with once we get all of our permits and clearances. Eastern Hillcrest is another project that was bid out last month. This is an amazing project. The picture on the left highlights the bikeway network, and the connectivity is there as far as with our existing network. But really what this is a partnership with the city. On the right is the normal street promenade and Pride Plaza. And, the city has long desired to redevelop that. So we have an agreement with the city that as part of one construction contract, we'll redevelop Pride Plaza. SANDAG is responsible for paying for the bikeway portions of that scope, and the city will reimburse for the Pride Plaza improvements. What's great about this is that it saves the taxpayers money because we're combining construction, into one construction contract. It saves time that we don't have to do this sequentially. So it's really it's a win-win for everyone. But with every great plan comes risks. And, as I emphasized before, construction costs are very volatile. We did our best to estimate what we thought the cost would be. And our engineer's estimate was $18.5 million. We had multiple bids, but the lowest bid was $27.5 million. And so part of the budget amendment asked today is to fund SANDAG's differential to cover that $2.7 million that SANDAG would need to proceed with awarding this contract. I can report back that the city is also concurrently looking for their portion, the $6.3 million, so they can fund their portion so we can see this project through. And, a lot of times we're asked, how do our projects compare to costs for other projects around the region? We did an informal survey of approximately 15 bikeways along the West Coast. And what we found is that we're in the range of costs. So for a class 4 bikeway, which is a protected cycle track, our costs are running about $6.7 million for our one project. Other agencies are seeing close to $6 million, so within the ballpark there. And likewise, for complete street or complex bikeways, the programmatic delivery cost, the entire cost from cradle to grave for SANDAG is $13 million. So that's your Barrio Logans, that's your Pershing, that's your Georgia Meade Landis projects. Other agencies across the West Coast are $16.6 million per mile. So just to kind of give a benchmark here of what other agencies are experiencing for costs, and just to kind of normalize that, and want to recognize that these bikeways are complicated. There's a lot to them, and there's a lot of costs that come as a result. So hopefully I was able to convey that today. And now I'm going to pass it over to Michelle, who's going to talk a little bit about our funding plan.
All right, thanks, Omar. So I know the question that's burning in everybody's mind is, how are we going to pay for this? For these 8 projects that we're bringing forward today, we have funded $183 million of this work. And a lot of that, which is almost over 50%, about $100 million, is actually outside funds. So staff has been instrumental in bringing outside funding to fund these projects. Right now, we are showing that we are estimating they will now cost $201 million. And so that leaves us with a $17.8 million funding gap at this time. What we are proposing today is we are proposing to use commercial paper to fund this gap. Just a little reminder of how the Transnet works for the BPNS funds. So the Transnet Bike, Pedestrian, and Neighborhood Safety Funds, or BPNS, is an off the top. So the Transnet revenues come in, 2% is taken off the top to fund these projects, and that's roughly $8 million a year. So as Omar has gone through all the expenditures and increase, we know that that is not sufficient to fund these projects. If we only receive $8 million a year, we would have to push a lot of these projects out. So these 8 projects are either in construction or will be going into construction in the next 6 months. So we know that the need is now, and we cannot wait to go to delay these projects, because that will increase the cost of these going forward. And we just want to make sure that we are using the best methodology of these Transnet funds. So what we are proposing is to use commercial paper, which if you think about it as kind of like a credit card, the credit card is paid with Transnet BPNS, and we are taking future Transnet BPNS funds. We are moving them forward to spend them now, and we will use future revenues to pay back that borrow. So the ask today is for $20 million. And this is because we want to make sure that we fund that $17.8 million gap. And then we want to put it another $2.2 million in reserve if needed. So as Omar has stated, these costs are coming in higher than usual. The bids are coming in higher than usual. So we want to make sure that we leave a little bit on the table in case we do get some additional cost increases. Now, if we do need another budget amendment and we need to bring this $2.2 million in, we would definitely come back to TC and the board for another budget amendment to add these funds. The good thing about commercial paper is that we do not access it until we need it. So we will continue to draw down our current Transnet BPNS, our outside funding, and then if we find that we need the money, we will then go to our commercial paper program and draw it down as needed. That does not mean we will draw the entire $20 million down this year or next year. It's just kind of a threshold for that credit card and saying, as we need it, we will access those funds. So Attachment 6 provides a summary of the projects and their proposed amendments, and Attachment 7 provides the red lines to the CIP to show you what is changing, what we are proposing, and how the budgets are being updated. Is it this one? Yeah. So the Transportation Committee is asked to recommend that the Board of Directors, acting as the Regional Transportation Commission, to 1, approve the borrowing of commercial paper up to $20 million for 8 projects in the Bike Early Action Program to support near-term budget needs for projects budgeted with the Transnet Bicycle, Pedestrian, and Neighborhood Safety Funds, and 2, approve the corresponding FY 2025 program budget amendment. And we're here for questions.
I wanted to add, thank you. I just wanted to do a summary of this item, how I understood it when it was presented to me, and it got presented like 3 times because I kept coming back with more questions. Big picture, complex projects. The team is learning, as a lot of agencies are learning, that bike projects are not as easy peasy of putting some asphalt and just moving on. You know, it's requiring picking up structures, so the structural section, finding the utilities, upgrading facilities that were really old, like Harbor, where they're not ADA compliant, and suddenly the radius of the curve is not, doesn't have stop sight distance or anything like that. Other agencies doing work within the areas, other agencies changing, like the Navy, changing thoughts of also what they want. So this is how the team is maturing into understanding how complex bike projects are. Having said that, you know, I kept getting back to the team and saying, well, can we live within the means, right? And I think something that the team mentioned is that about half, give or take, is through grants, right?
Correct.
And external funding. So when they were weighing in the risk of doing for the commercial paper funding, the risk wasn't just, hey, we're going to tap into potentially future funds and maybe pay interest, but also weighing in of, if we don't deliver this, if we delay it, we lose the grant, which is 50%. So when they're adding and doing the math, it penciled in that it was more advantageous to do this scenario than to table 1 or 2 projects, because suddenly we would lose 50% of the funding. So suddenly the potential funding cost really was smaller than the potential total loss to the region of funding. So that's how I took it. But you know, I think the team is welcome for any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Let's move on to any public comments. Francesca, do we have any public commenters?
Thank you, Chair. We do. First public commenter will be Michael Donovan, if you'd like to step up to the podium, and Michael will be followed by Benjamin Nichols.
Hi, my name is Michael Donovan. I'm a member of the Hillcrest Town Council. I'd like to talk about a couple of attributes of these projects and getting them complete on time. Most of it is around safety. Three of these actually complete the east-west safe bicycling path through the Hillcrest and Uptown areas. The Eastern Hillcrest Bikeway, in addition to providing the first real safe gathering space, also cleans up University Avenue such that that high-speed traffic pattern is not quite as dangerous. The Washington Street bikeways give the first safe path down to the trolley. I mean, I've used the trolley twice in probably 10 years because I can't get my bicycle down there in a manner that's safe. It also starts the University Avenue towards North Park, which gives us access to those businesses and facilities over there. It's important that this be done in a timely manner. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Benjamin Nichols, followed by Jerry Trussell.
Hello, my name is Benjamin Nichols, and I'm the Executive Director of the Hillcrest Business Association. We represent about 1,800 small businesses and property owners, and we have done so in Hillcrest for over 100 years. I'm here to urge support for this item, specifically the additional funding for the Normal Street Promenade in Hillcrest as part of the Uptown Bikeway project. This project will create a first-of-its-kind promenade in San Diego that will convert excess travel lanes into a walkable, bikeable public space, serving the community's need for quality recreational areas and placemaking. Tonight in Hillcrest, we kick off our Pride celebrations, and this will occur in the heart of the future promenade. This location is already the heart of our community and a nexus for pedestrian activity. Completing the bike lane here as part of a civic plaza is critical to getting the existing bikeway through Uptown to work. This project is also a collaboration that draws together a variety of funds that will leverage SANDAG's investment considerably. Thank you for funding this project in support of our community. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jerry Trussell, who will be followed by Stephen Vance.
Good morning. I'm Jerry Trussell, Executive Director for the Uptown Community Parking District. And as your mobility partner, we have reinvested $6 million into the Normal Street Promenade. And we would encourage your support and request the funding to complete the necessary infrastructure bikeways for the Uptown area and Eastern Hillcrest. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Stephen Vance, who will be followed by Alan C.
Good morning, Stephen Vance. I'm here as the chair of the board of directors for the San Diego County Bicycle Coalition. You know, as I rode my bike in this morning to the meeting, I was able to reflect back on all the changes that have happened to our bike network over the almost 30 years that I spent as a bike commuter coming downtown, actually to work in this very office. And we made a lot of progress with the improvements that have happened along Nimitz Boulevard, Harbor Drive, the downtown mobility network, but we're not quite there yet. I also just returned from France, where I was able to see what they've done in Paris, where they made a full commitment to a complete network of bikeways, and the amount of bike traffic in that city is phenomenal. So now you have an opportunity to continue the work that you've done, use the existing revenue source that you have for the bike program to keep these projects going and build that complete network of low-stress bikeways that'll really create a great city and region for bicycling. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Alan C., who will be followed by the original draw.
Hello, I'm looking at slide 3, the green paint to basically let drivers know that bicycles are going to merge right in front of them. That is absolutely ridiculous, because first off, the green paint on a wet road makes it more slippery, more dangerous for bicyclists. My hometown, where I grew up as a kid up in Oregon, the bike lane was a sidewalk. Yes. My city widened the sidewalk, a natural barrier protected the bicyclists and pedestrians, kept them separate from the cars, and we got a wider sidewalk for the bicyclists as well. That's what you guys should approach on and go that route. Have the bicyclists on a sidewalk converted with decent ramp, and everybody's protected. Nobody has to merge in front of nobody, causing the risk of accidents. And oh, by the way, Transnet promised road expansion, which included 125, yet you're still having the working people in Chula Vista paying the toll road. That shit was already funded by Transnet when you bought it out, which promised expansion 125. Think about that. I yield back.
Our next speaker will be the original draw, followed by Blair Beekman.
When you're talking about if you build it, they will come, that means that you don't have a lot of bikers that are like just vying to go and ride their bikes everywhere. Sure, you have some, but you have way more drivers, and you're spending a lot of money on, bringing all this forward. But, how many people are actually riding? You're saying that the numbers have gone up and increased when you do that, but how are you actually counting that? Like, where do you get your data from when you're counting how many people are riding their bikes? It's not like you have someone sitting there. I mean, do you have some kind of sensor that goes off that, is tracking the amount of, riders that come through? And how would you know that it's not just one rider going back and forth? But you're spending all this money like this, and then our roads are suffering for the drivers that drive on them, and it's making it a lot harder for people to get around. So, I mean, you're not going to have all these people who want to drive a car suddenly riding a bike on all of these paths. So you're like neglecting there's no equity there because you're neglecting the majority of people.
Our next speaker is Blair Beekman, and Blair will be followed by Chloe Lehner.
Hi, Blair Beekman. With all of these important new projects and the use of Transnet at this time, bicyclists, they really want the sense of public safety with these projects, and that means they want a lot of technology and data collection around these projects to help public safety needs. When you're doing that, really be making that a process, a holistic process, and consider tech accountability, open public policies, and public participation as a full holistic process. It really helps answer the questions that we're trying to work towards for the future of these things, and try to work towards truth in our tech questions. Don't hide things. That's the best way to go. We're trying to learn things like hotspot technology, where we move technology around from place to place. That needs new help with public oversight and clarity. It doesn't have to be fearful. Good luck in that effort. And that public oversight can be with, our data collection at the law enforcement level too.
Our final speaker on this item will be Chloe Lehner, if you'd like to step up to the podium.
Good morning, Transportation Committee, esteemed guests and colleagues. I'm Chloe Lauer, Executive Director of the San Diego County Bicycle Coalition, speaking in support of this item. I represent a coalition of over 10,000 members throughout the county. The 8 included projects are critical parts of improving our already improving bikeway network. Good work is underway, and funding them now to ensure timely completion is essential. A delay would simply lead to cost increases and could put our friends and neighbors in harm's way. According to SWITR's data from the Transportation Injury Mapping System, over the last 5 years, an average of 750 bicyclists have been killed, seriously injured, or injured in crashes on our county streets and roadways. These are mothers, fathers, friends, children, and loved ones. Our coalition members urge you to support this item and help us all realize our commitment to bicycling being a safe, mainstream, and enjoyable form of transportation and recreation for anyone who chooses it. More people biking makes our communities more vibrant.
Your time has expired. That concludes the public comments.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from Councilwoman Campillo?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, staff, for this presentation, for the hard work to get to this point. I appreciate SANDAG staff working to ensure that key regional bike projects move forward. These are not new projects. They've been thoroughly vetted, are well underway, and the reality is that project costs have gone up, which is often the case with capital projects, and the final costs have been benchmarked or within line of comparable projects in other jurisdictions, which is really important to note. And some of these bids only came in after the budget was adopted, so some of these considerations were not fully fleshed out at the time, therefore necessitating this amendment today. So I appreciate the creative mechanism to use the commercial paper program to fill this gap, and very importantly, making sure SANDAG's not losing out on tens of millions of dollars in state and federal funding that would be at risk if we were not able to fully fund these projects right now. So in turn, the city of San Diego is committed to continuing to work on minimizing the permitting delays that can get in the way and getting these projects out the door as well. So it's imperative we do not halt and underfund these budgets. So I will move staff's recommendation to approve the borrowing of commercial paper up to $20 million for 8 projects in the bike early action program to support near-term budget needs for projects funded with Transnet, bicycle, pedestrian, and neighborhood safety funds, and approve the corresponding fiscal year 2025 program budget amendment. That'll conclude my motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Second by Mayor Kranz, who can continue discussion and comments. Councilman Brett Adele.
Yes, thank you. And thank you so much for the presentation and update with regards to where this program's at. Really appreciate all the work that's been put into it. Just a few comments specifically around the rail trail, and then I have another comment as well. So I know North County Rail Trail has been in the regional plan for quite a few years. I think it's over 20 years, and there seems to be, I just wanted to point out, like, no focus or significant funding specifically to complete the remaining segments. Something that's really important that I want to make sure that we get on the record, and of course are still supportive of the action today. But I do think that one of the things that is necessary is to make sure that we continue to prioritize and ensure that there is money that will be spent on those particular segments that we've mentioned, because I think I can definitely speak, at least from the city of Carlsbad's perspective, and I know that North County in general has this need, but we don't have a completed or cohesive rail trail. And I definitely think that it's essential, not only for mobility's sake, but obviously just from like a public safety perspective as well. So I just wanted to emphasize that piece. The other thing, just specifically around the rail trail for the city of Carlsbad, I noticed that the report does not seem to be up to date. It did not show the current status of the rail trail along Avenida Encinas. So I just wanted to make a note of that one. And then lastly, I think one thing that I just wanted to bring up was, as part of the mobility working group, it seems that the mobility related items were not included as part of the working group agendas prior to them going to the transportation committee. And I know that at least in our city's charter, we are supposed to be providing, hopefully, mobility recommendations to this committee. So just wanted to elevate those things. But other than that, supportive of today's action and really appreciate the work that's been put into this. Thank you.
Any other comments? Frank, go ahead. We'll come back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Michelle, if you could just remind me, please, the revenue stream that you have targeted will be paying off this commercial paper?
It's the Transnet BPNS, or Bicycle, Pedestrian, Neighborhood and Safety Funding. So it's a 2% off the top of our revenues that come in that are supposed to go directly towards bike programs.
And what does that revenue stream generate annually?
About $8 million.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
You come back to Mayor Kranz. Did you have a comment?
Yes, thank you. Appreciate the presentation. I can attest for the transformational impacts that these bike facilities have on a community. In our city, Cardiff by the Sea received early action because of its the double tracking project across the lagoon for the North County NCC, North County coastal builds. And so when the I-5 was widened as part of that project, the double tracking of the rail took place over the San Leo Lagoon, and a bike facility was put in that's about 1.5 miles long between essentially Chesterfield Drive and Santa Fe Drive, and its use is tremendous. One of my favorite things when I'm riding through there is to see the number of kids on their push scooters. Parents bring their kids down there because they know it's a safe place for their kids to be trained on how to ride a bike. I also enjoy a lot seeing elderly folks from our city with walkers that are safely using the pedestrian facilities there. The cost per mile was significant, in large part because as a part of the project, stormwater facilities, a pedestrian bridge over Rossini Creek, and other very important improvements in our infrastructure was part of the project. So I can tell you that the impacts of this spending by SANDAG on bike facilities is significant and a really important part of our city. That section of our city has also had a huge investment from our general fund, as well as from Caltrans grants, to increase the number of bikeways on Highway 101. They are somewhat controversial because they have taken up space that was previously dedicated to a type of rider that, wanted to be able to go as quickly as they could. And now there are more people to dodge and other things, cars, et cetera. So it's interesting that as we continue to improve our bike facilities, we also have this clash of cyclists that are taking place when really all we're endeavoring to do is to attract more people to get out and be active and ride bikes and walk. So I'm pleased to see this item. I do have a couple of questions. When I went to the Silicon Valley, there was a conference of their bike coalition, and I learned about these interesting traffic counters. They're devices that can count cyclists. They can distinguish between a cyclist and a pedestrian. And do we have any of those around the region?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we do. We have a whole program, and I don't remember the number of counters, but we do have quite a few counters that we strategically place around the whole region. And so, like I mentioned in my presentation, we like to do counts before we do the project and after we do the project, so we can really show the benefits of that.
So we're using empirical evidence to document the fact that the use of these facilities is significant.
Correct.
Okay. The other issue relates to change orders, and because of the amount of construction that we've been doing in Encinitas on our infrastructure, I'm familiar with the fact that there are always some big surprises with each project. So change orders are just part of this. I want to have some assurance that when we're reviewing change orders, that we're making certain that it's an appropriate change order as opposed to something that the awarded contractor just maybe overlooked or forgot or whatever. I think that it's critical that we are clear that the change orders that we're approving are through no fault of the contractor. And so if maybe the executive could speak to that.
I think we're focusing on, cost, scope, and schedule. Those are our three pillars for projects. So if the team comes with a scope change, it better be a valid reason why it is, not just because somebody wants something bigger, better, or more beautiful, right? So we are focusing. I think the team has had a flavor of that in the recent weeks that we have met multiple times and trying to see how we can always reduce the impacts and the changes to scope. So we are working towards that and having more balances and checks, sir. But I don't know, Omar, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, I appreciate the comments. And yes, change orders, I totally agree with you. We have a whole construction management team, and their sole job is to understand the contract to the letter of the law and really determine if something is out of scope. And that's thoroughly vetted at our construction management team level. And then there's an approval process that comes all the way through the chain, depending on the amount of the construction change order. With that said, we don't have perfect plans, but we do the best that we can. We do our due diligence and try to locate in everything that we can. Inevitably, some things are going to happen in the field that wasn't planned for. And so we do have a contingency that we reserve, understanding that, no set of plans is perfect.
Great. And just kind of to close, the city of Encinitas was incorporated about 40 years ago from 4 communities, Olivenhain, Encinitas, Cardiff, and Lucadia. Cardiff has had a lot of SANDAG love with resources that have gone into bike facilities. The city's general fund has made some improvements in Lucadia, but there's a long way to go to connect the coastal rail trail, as Councilmember Patel has mentioned, and our city is really looking forward to finding the resources to complete the entire project, because it's been very important, and I look forward to the day that it's complete. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Clance. Was there any comments from this side? If not, John, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for the presentation. I just had a couple quick questions. I wanted to make sure I understood a couple of things from Omar's presentation. Is it possible to put up slide 8? I may want to look, I'll be very quick with my questions. I just want to make sure I understood a couple of the comments. Okay, how about slide 9, please? So two just quick questions related to this. One is on your earlier comments about the Bayshore Bikeway and the area that's, I completely understood what you said about the, reasons for the delays. If members of the public are interested in asking how long, when do you think that Bayshore Bikeway, not the ancillary, projects pass off of it, but that itself is expected to be completed? Is it fair, were you saying potentially by the end of 2025?
Yes, that's our goal, is to complete by the end of next year.
Okay, thank you. And then the other quick question on this slide, you said something about $1 is now worth $2. What you were saying is that the dollar back when it was awarded or a few years ago now has half the purchasing power it did then, or did I misunderstand?
No, that's essentially correct. What I'm trying to highlight here is that the orange line reflects the volatility in the construction market. And so, $1 purchasing power in 2020 is now going to cost us $1.9 or almost $2.
Okay, close to
So
double.
yeah, there's been a lot of escalation in terms of construction costs.
Okay, and then I guess I'll just make my last final comment in regard to what Mayor Krantz said. Obviously, whenever, someone asks anybody who's monitoring a construction project, hey, are the change orders, appropriate? The answer is obviously, yeah, absolutely. It is an interesting, just rhetorical question to ask yourselves on all the SANDAG projects at some point. This question, which is, has one ever been rejected? And has one ever been reduced in scope? Because that certainly shows the scrutiny.
Absolutely. Every one of them has to have a record of negotiation. So the contractor will say this is a change. The resident engineer will review the change, will independently prepare a cost. The contractor will prepare their cost. They'll get together and discuss. So there's a negotiation to see. And a lot of times it's trying to agree on the scope that was done and really understanding what the change was. There's many times where we reject change orders, say, no, it's in the contract and you're not entitled to this. And so we do that, from time to time. And if the contractor still takes exception to that, there's a escalation process that we go through with the dispute resolution board that can kind of help us navigate those disputes. But absolutely, change orders are rejected if they're not warranted.
And thank you for your presentation, answering my questions.
Also, to answer a little bit more, if before we start or award the contract, the bids come in way, way high, we also do an evaluation to see if it's valid, right? If our independent cost estimator then miss something, but if we find that we can't really reconcile that, we would re-advertise the job and rescope it, or come back to the board and say, look, we have to do an addendum to the budget. But we also look at that before it gets awarded.
Councilman Zito, you had a comment?
Yeah, thanks. And thanks for the presentation. I appreciated the beginning overview too, as being someone who actually took the Rose Creek Bikeway here today. It is a fabulous facility, well-designed, well-built, and as you said, well-used. I see a lot of people on that facility all the time. I guess I'll start off just by saying I want to second the comments made by Mayor Krantz and Councilmember Bat Patel about the North County stuff. There's a lot of great infrastructure up there, but it's all in pieces right now. And so hopefully we will have a vision as part of the regional transportation plan of how we're going to get all those pieces connected. The first question I wanted to ask is just very, I guess, due diligence basic, but this is so small, and I'm guessing that's why it wasn't brought up, but I'm assuming there's no chance that this commercial paper will affect the agency's credit rating, taking out this commercial loan.
I think I can have someone from finance answer that.
Hello, I'm Marcus Pasquale with Finance Department. So to answer the credit rating question, credit ratings are based on usually the debt service to revenue ratio, and we calculate that based on the full amount of the commercial paper program, which is at 100 million. So drawing any more or less on the commercial paper program will not affect our credit ratings.
Great, that's all I had on that one, thanks. And then since we're clearly potentially locking up revenue for a little bit of time to come, this facility, and this question may sound a little self-serving, but this facility is well served now by bicycle facilities, particularly after the 4th and 5th bike lanes are there. Do we know how the new facility that we're moving to next year is serviced by bike facilities? And do we have a plan to make sure that we have good bike facilities going to that facility as we lock up more revenue towards these existing projects?
Yeah, that's a fair question. I don't know that we've looked at that specifically. I know the city's got some of their bike deck network they built out. Off the top of my head, I can't remember. There's good connectivity to the new building, but we're always happy to help out and try to find some solutions there if possible.
Okay, yeah, I'd encourage us to do that, since we'll be using it next year. And then apologies, this is probably going to go off on a little bit of a tangent, but I'm curious. You talked about a lot of metrics at the beginning with respect to the facilities. Do we have a way that we're tracking regionally and be able to have an understanding of cycling accidents that occur that do not involve a motor vehicle, but do involve potentially a call to EMS? So can we say on a facility that we've had 10 bike accidents here that were just crashing into something, but did involve EMS, but don't involve another motor vehicle? Do we track that and can we report it?
Yeah, there are statewide data that has things to that effect. I think one of the commenters mentioned Switters and some other databases that have that information. They kind of lag by a year or so, if I recall correctly. I don't know that we actively do that, but we do map kind of where the more dangerous places are, and that's kind of part of our planning projects to kind of alleviate those more dangerous areas and really try to align with our Vision Zero goals.
Okay, yeah, and I mean I haven't seen it. Been on this committee for several years now, and I haven't seen it. So I'd like to try to start elevating some of this and just get an understanding. I mean, just so I can understand if my personal experience. So, I think many of us know that one of the enjoyable things I do after these meetings is when I bike back, I stop at Regent's Pizza in UTC and bike up Regent's Road, and was surprised to see a couple months ago a whole bunch of bollards pop up. Don't consider particularly well designed. And I also then know within a few weeks of those bollards coming up, a cyclist hit it, crashed, broke a rib, had to be carried away in an ambulance. I have a friend in Solana Beach who was biking through Del Mar, and where Camino Del Mar splits off from Jimmy Durante. Del Mar has 4 bollards there, just 4. And again, hit one of those bollards, broke 5 ribs, spent 5 days in the ICU. And so I think that, it behooves us to be able to measure this stuff and to be able to look at it. Because in the past 2 years, I personally know of 4 people, one who has died that has just had accidents with this infrastructure that we're putting up. And if we can't measure something, we can't actually try to improve upon it. And the other thing I think that might be useful is to have, I don't know if it's part of the mobility working group, but to have some forum where best practices could be discussed. So as cities implement this infrastructure, we know that it's being done the right way. I mean, for example, the California MUTCD stipulates the only way a bollard should be used is for the creation of a class 4 bikeway, right? I would claim 4 bollards does not make a class 4 bikeway. I would think at a minimum, if you're going to put bollards up, they have to go from intersection to intersection. So you at least have a whole block or a whole stretch of class 4 bikeway. But I see all sorts of different stuff being done around the county right now. And it is worrisome because it's taking out cyclists at a rate that I haven't ever seen in my entire life. So these facilities, I mean, on the other side, the facilities I've been using from SANDAG, as I said, the Rose Creek Bikeway, Rose Canyon Bikeway, just wonderful designs, clearly very well done, but it's just not something I'm seeing uniform around the county. And so I'd like just to make sure that we have ways to address that. Thanks.
Seeing no other hands raised, I have a friendly amendment that I'm going to let our legal Betsy word out, since it's a minor technical friendly amendment for the makers of the motions.
So yeah, the friendly amendment I think the chair is offering would be to add to subsection 1 that the Transportation Committee is asked to recommend that the Board of Directors, acting as a regional transportation commission. The commercial and paper program is a function of SANDAG's Board of Directors acting as a regional transportation commission. So it's just a formality.
For the makers of the motion, second to okay with that minor change.
Yeah, what does that substantively do?
So the Regional Transportation Commission is the one that controls the commercial paper program. So it just ensures that SANDAG's wearing the right hat when it takes that action.
Very good. Understood. Well, my original motion was the recommendation to the board of directors to do something. So I'm glad that we're clarifying that. Sure, I'll accept that.
And that's seconded accepted by the second. I have some questions and comments. First of all, having this on the agenda is great because I didn't have to wear a regular shirt. I could wear a T-shirt to use my Bike Anywhere T-shirt again this year and have a good reason to do so. So Omar, when I hear what these funds are being used for, typically I hear things like drainage, I hear bridges, I hear barriers to protect the bicyclists from auto. So is that, how much of the money actually goes towards pavement for a bicyclist or something that's directly affecting the bicyclist?
Yeah, it's a fair question. You know, for example, the bridge that you mentioned, we want to create a separated path. In order to do that, we need to build the bridge so that they're not mixing along the street and creating that safe separated bikeway. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head. I'm happy to kind of go back and get you some of those numbers, but we do inherit some of the aging infrastructure, deferred maintenance that comes as a part of this process, and it does tend to drive up the costs. What we've been able to do in recent time is really get a lot more MOUs out in front of the projects where we kind of spell out the portions that are critical to the bikeway. And then if it's some sort of deferred maintenance or something of that sort, we can kind of clarify that scope and get reimbursement from the participating city.
Great. Also, I want to take note of some of the data you showed on some of the projects already that we saw, that there's an increase in bike use. That's great, 20% which helps our mode share shifts. But there's also an increase in pedestrian use. Mm-hmm. And that's notable. There's a decrease in vehicle traffic, which is one of our goals. And there's a decrease in speed of vehicles, which is a great safety factor. So when I look at it, these aren't just bike projects. These are projects that change our transportation system in many ways. And we had a speaker talk about how a bike lane, if it's completed, is going to get them to the trolley station more as well. So maybe an increase in transit use. Mm-hmm. So to me, this is kind of money that we should all be spending in general transportation system and as a whole, and not label it just as a bike funding. And lastly, we had a commenter giving us written comments that I think most of us read, all of the written comments, which talk about the cost-benefit ratio, that each dollar spent on bike infrastructure results in huge benefits in many ways, from health to active transportation, which costs us less per mile traveled. So I think, to me, this is the direction we need to go as a whole. And it's unfortunate sometimes we have to label it bike money. And the issue of also the percentages. I know this will come up in our regular board meeting. Bike mode share is fairly low. It's still close to 1%. But I know our climate action plans for various cities and the county as well, when we did mode share shifts, calls for 3%, 4%, 5% bike mode share and active transportation. So we should be spending a lot more money in this. And of course, I'm going to be advocating for that so that we don't limit it to 2%. And I don't like commercial paper or credit cards very much, but I could see where this is really advantageous and that cost is going to go up. And completing these projects now makes sense in a sense, in that the price is going to probably be higher in the future. So that makes sense to complete them now and use commercial paper to do that, which is a mechanism that I guess many of us use in our households as well, but we don't call it commercial paper. But in any case, thank you for this presentation. If there aren't any other comments, we can go ahead and take the vote.
And that motion passes unanimously with those numbers present.
Great. We'll move on to item number 7. This is SANDAG's grant program quarterly status update and amendment requests. And we have Jenny Kim and Alan. Alia.
Ali.
Alia to make a presentation. Thank you.
Good morning, members of the Transportation Committee. My name is Kim Smith, and I'm a senior regional planner here at SANDAG in charge of managing our Transnet Environmental Mitigation Program, or EMP. I'm joined by my colleagues, Jenny and Ali, as we will be giving you a quarterly status update on our grant programs and providing details of our 2 amendment requests that are included in this report. So just as a reminder, the Transportation Committee has oversight of the 6 grant programs seen on the slide above. These grant programs fund projects that provide a broad range of benefits for the San Diego region, impacting areas such as active and specialized transportation, land use, and habitat protection. So this slide provides the grant status summary for all of our programs. We'll now briefly highlight the work being done and pertinent issues for each grant program. So the first grant program that we're going to highlight is the EMP Land Management Grant Program that provides land managers with funding to help maintain and enhance the integrity of our regional preserve systems, as well as protect endangered species and their habitats. For this reporting period, as you can see, we have 19 active projects. We have 2 projects that were completed. We still have 1 project on the watch list. This is our the San Diego Audubon Silverwood Anistine fencing project. And just as a reminder, this project was put on the watch list for potential labor code violations. The Department of Industrial Relations has provided a letter closing out the project and the investigation. The DIR noted that they closed the case because there was insufficient evidence to confirm that California public work law was violated. The subconsultants that were reported received courtesy warnings and have been noted in the DIR system. Final payment is processing, and once final payment is complete, the project will be closed and will be removed from the watch list. We have 0 amendment requests for this program, and finally, 1 project that requested a withdrawal, and this is our City of Santee Tank Hill Cactus Wren Habitat Enhancement project. The City of Santee is requesting to withdraw this grant award. No work or funding has been spent or completed, and details of the request and the reason for the withdrawal are included in attachment 3 to your agenda. And then finally, we're going to highlight one of our active projects. This is the Earth Discovery Institute, the El Monte Preserve Bat Hotel project, which is located in eastern San Diego County, just right off Highway 8 there. This project aids in the recovery of locally declining bat species by creating a thermally stable long-term roost site, or as we call it, a bat hotel. The project also has engaged and educated the public about the ecological importance and conservation values of bats. And you can see on the slide above that the structure is the one-of-a-kind bat hotel. It mimics over 13 species of bats' natural habitat and also has the capacity to hold over 400 bats combined. So now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Ali, and she'll discuss the Specialized Transportation Grant Program.
Thank you, everyone. I'm Ali Vasquez. I'm the program manager for Specialized Transportation Grant Program. You may be more familiar with my colleague, Zach, who handles the competitive process, but I monitor all of the active grants for SCGP. The SCGP, as you may be aware, includes the FTA Section 5310 program, as well as the Transnet Senior Mini Grant Program. During this reporting period, we had 37 active projects, 3 grants that were completed, and then we had 5 that were on the watch list. We also experienced a requested a client award similar to what EMP went through, and this was due to this particular awardee's financial constraints. The funding from this was not spent at all, and in light of the decline, we'll roll over those funds into the next competitive call for projects, which was released last week. Lastly, we do have 1 award amendment request that Jenny will discuss with you all shortly. And here is a fun photo from one of our programs. This is a photo from one of our Section 5310 projects. This is Travelers Aid Ride Finder program, which provides travel training to teach older adults and people with disabilities how to ride transit. So now I'll turn things over to Jenny to discuss the amendment requests and our other remaining grant programs.
So FACT is requesting 2 changes to its Cycle 12, Section 5310 awards. This is the prior competitive cycle. First is to reduce the matching funds amount from 50% that was stated in the original application to 20%. And the second item is to increase the cost per one-way passenger trip from $32 to $37. Because this changes the scope of FACT's original award, the request has to be approved by the Board of Directors. If the request is approved, the total project would be reduced from 800,000 to 500,000, and the number of one-way passenger trips would be reduced from 25,000 to 13,520. Staff recommends that this request be denied, which would uphold the integrity of the competitive selection process, and it would treat FACT in the same manner as other STGP applicants and grantees who must follow through with what they included in their original application or request to withdraw the grant. Another option that you can consider recommending to the board includes reducing the amount of the award proportionately to accompany FACT's new pledged match of $100,000. This would result in a total project cost of $200,000 and an estimated 6,250 trips. Switching to our active transportation program, there are just 2 projects in the program. One was completed during the reporting period, which is the City of Santee's Prospect Avenue and Mesa Road intersection improvements, which I'll detail on the next slide. The other project is the Carlsbad Boulevard and Tamarack Avenue Pedestrian Improvement Project, which was placed on the watch list last October because it was falling behind and meeting milestones listed in the project schedule. The grantee will be coming to ITALK and TC later in this year to request an additional project amendment. Here are some before and after photos of the Santee project that was recently completed. This project included design and construction of sidewalks, bulb outs to reduce pedestrian crossing distance, and a bike lane and street paving. Moving on to the Smart Growth Incentive Program, we have 12 active projects. 3 of those are on the watch list, including 2 that have labor compliance issues and 1 that has a scheduled delay that is requesting an amendment today. I also wanted to highlight for you a project that's nearing completion. This is the City of National Cities Together We Plan National City Project, which will produce a focused general plan update, including land use, transportation, safety, and housing elements. The city is also producing a climate action plan update with this project. In this reporting period, the staff prepared final drafts of the general plan and presented them to the Planning Commission and City Council, and the project will be closed out in the next few months. The other item for your consideration today is the City of Escondido's amendment request. The City of Escondido has a general plan amendment and environmental review project that will provide amendments to their general plan safety elements and is creating a new environmental justice element. These elements will reduce VMT, increase environmental sustainability, and improve housing equity in the city. The city's planning department has experienced severe staffing shortages, which halted the project late in 2023. The staffing vacancies have been addressed, and the city's been working towards securing a consultant that can perform project work within a new schedule. So the city has requested a 16-month time extension to reflect the updated timeline and for the project to be completed. The city has received 1 prior time extension for this project, which extended the completion date by 8 months from the original date of November 2023. And SANDAG Board Policy 35 requires that extension requests beyond 12 months aggregate be approved by a policy advisory committee. If the amendment's approved, the grant will be extended and the project would be completed by November 2025. And city staff is here to answer any questions that you might have about their project. And lastly is the Access for All program, which has one active project that began last year and was recently completed in June. The project was placed on the watch list during the reporting period due to the grantee not providing deliverables in a timely manner. But since the reporting period, a time extension request was approved to allow completion of the deliverables, which the grantee has since submitted. The application period for the second cycle of AFA closed last month, and we're currently working on evaluating those applications. The funding recommendations will be brought to this committee and the board in the fall for your consideration. And this concludes our presentation. I'll turn things back over to the chair.
Thank you, Francesca. Let's move on to public comments.
Thank you, Chair. Our first commenter will be Arun Prem. If you'd like to step up to the podium, followed by Alan C.
Good morning. In 2023, this committee and the SANDAG board directed staff to find additional funding for FACTS critical services, which was done and we appreciate it. Unfortunately, the follow-up is coming before you with the recommendation from SANDAG staff to reject FACTS funding request. If you approve this staff request, that would potentially hurt FACT. Insisting that a nonprofit that lacks sustainable funding spend half its reserve fund, thereby making it more vulnerable, is not what you envisioned or directed staff. I believe that without compromising the process or being unfair to any recipient, SANDAG could support FACT's request to match the grant award of $400,000 with a 20% match. SANDAG also opposes FACT's adjusting the trip cost from $32 to $37. Since we committed to the lower cost 2 years ago, our trips have become longer. The average riders were going 13 miles instead of 9 miles, and that's beyond FACT's control. And inflation affects FACT just like it does SANDAG.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Our next speaker will be Alan C., followed by the original draw.
How much of that bat hotel costs of our transportation transnet funds? Look into that. How much do they pocket on something that could have been built for like maybe, what, a couple $1,000s, and you put $1 million into it, whatever you put into it? Transnet, I quote, the people voted back in '88 to relieve traffic congestion, improve safety, and improve federal state funds by expanding I-5, I-8, I-15, SR 52, SR 64, or 54, 56, 76, SR 78, SR 94, SR 125. And yet you're wasting the money on bat caves. You're wasting your money on bike lanes. The bike lanes wasn't even listening. Oh, by the way, I just quoted that transit extension that the people voted back in 2004. This fall, you got another tax bill. Are you going to tell the truth this time and say that tax is going to go to bat caves and bike lanes? Start looking at the parking lots or freeways. Start taking care, and there's how you fix your climate. I yield back.
Our next speaker will be the original draw. You can go ahead.
Yeah, what's that bat hotel cost? Like $500,000 probably, and then you're educating people on bats. Like, okay. This FACT should not be getting special treatment if they can't, get in, like if things were already decided and now they're going back and saying that they want special treatment for whatever reasons, they shouldn't have gotten into the contract in the first place if they can't provide what needs to be provided to the public. So obviously, perhaps someone else needs to be contracted if they're, because how everybody else is going to want to come in and have the same treatment. So it defeats, from the purpose of providing the service. And with Escondido, with the delays of the 16 months, they're still searching for somebody to help with the project. So is that going to affect the amount of time that they need in order to complete the project? And they're going to come back at a certain time to say they need another extension because it took them so long to find the person that they're looking for that's, still in the process of being searched.
That concludes the public comments.
Thank you. Before we go on to member comments, I'm going to ask our legal counsel to make a comment that she asked to make for the record. Betsy.
Sure. Item 7 involves an action on a grant contract that could impact the nonprofit FACT. There are several Transportation Committee members who are also members of the FACT board. I believe the only member that's present today is Councilmember Duncan, but I just want to confirm, are there any other members present who are also members of the FACT board beyond Councilmember Duncan? Okay, so Councilmember Duncan, can you affirm for the record that you're a non-salaried member of the FACT board?
Yeah, I receive no salary nor expense compensation or any dollar for any reason from FACT. Thank you.
Great. Francesca, can you please reflect in the committee's minutes in accordance with Government Code Section 10915A7 that Councilmember Duncan is permitted to participate in this item today with that disclosure? Thanks.
Thank you. We're ready for member comments. We'll start with Mayor Kranz.
I guess may I have one other point of order, Chair?
Sure.
My understanding too is that we were also going to disclose, because potentially anything related to the grants could affect MTS or in CTD. I know MTS, for instance, in the 5310, I thought received multiple funding for vehicles, and I thought we were going to disclose, I guess if they're not here, looks like they didn't appear today. But is there anybody else on the board here that's on any of the other agencies that receive grant funding from these programs?
And to follow up on that, we can definitely do that in the board report that was provided. It does note the members who are officers of MTS and NCTD, and the affirmation would be that those members just receive a salary per diem or reimbursement for expenses, and that's disclosed on the record. I believe that that was disclosed as Councilmember Moreno and Councilmember Patel.
Okay, so those two council members receive either like a stipend or a payment for serving on those two boards. I guess my suggestion would be if I need to be disclosed as a non-compensated member of a grantee award, maybe why don't we just treat them both the same, where I'm included in the report as well, or we just disclose them all orally at the same time. It seems it would simplify the procedure.
Point of correction, I am not paid to attend this meeting by MTS.
I didn't say that, and I was repeating what the council said, which is when you're on MTS's board, you receive a stipend or a compensation. Is that accurate or inaccurate?
That's inaccurate.
Okay,
I do not receive a stipend by MTS for attending this meeting.
That's not what I said.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, my question to you, which you said was inaccurate, was the repeat of what the council said, which is when you attend MTS meetings, do you receive the compensation or a stipend, which is the exact same question she asked me when I attend FACT meetings, do I receive a stipend or compensation? And the answer was no. I think your
MTS is not a 501c3 though.
I'm sorry?
MTS is not a 501c3.
Yes, I know. I don't believe anybody alleged that. I believe what I specifically stated was that MTS received multiple grants through the 5310 grant program, I believe, for vehicles. Is that correct? Or was it through the other grant program that FACT was competing for?
So because the contract involves FACT, we focus the disclosure on FACT board members. Out of abundance of caution, if you would like us to confirm the members of MTS and NCTD that may receive a salary per diem or reimbursement of expenses from MTS and NCTD, happy to do that. It is already in the staff report.
But that would include me, that would include Campillo, that would include Monica Montgomery, that would include a lot of people. I mean, these are our transportation agencies and you guys are a transportation planning. So that just seems
So the Office of General Counsel didn't believe that that disclosure was necessary because this contract involves the nonprofit FACT. These items are noted in the staff report, so it is a part of the record.
Right. I'm fine. I won't go into an extensive repeating. My point is, which I think is the proper legal analysis, is that any change on a grantee's recipient under the cycle programs could affect the other applicants and or specifically the recipients such as MTS. And I thought that was our prior discussion in the past when we had the overall cycle ones. I understand why you're focusing on FACT. And by the way, we is not FACT. I mean, I have no interest in the organization. I just serve as a volunteer. I mean, for instance, we don't disclose for, I do the same thing as we have a staff, we have, I believe, a SANDAG representative to FACT that attends, but we also have a SANDAG staff member that attends the meetings as well. So anyways, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Duncan. Any other comments on the items? And Councilman Duncan, I understand, we want disclosure since the issues come up, but my understanding is we've always had members of MTS and TCD on our board that also serve on those boards. And that's pretty well known. So maybe that's why we don't always disclose that information as we go forward on these. And it's never been a conflict in the past. So we just want full disclosure, and our legal counsel just want to make sure that's exposed. Yes, General.
Happy to, this is Vivian. I'm happy to move staff's recommendation. Thank you.
I believe that. Okay.
Well, there's a
Then I
motion.
can second the
There's a motion, and Councilman Mayor Krantz wanted to second. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I just want to say that this is one of those things. It was interesting to hear that back and forth. Not a one of us. We volunteer for these services. We get silly little stipends for a job that we do for part-time pay. You know, the notion that anything, I mean, I recognize we're doing this out of an abundance of caution, but it's silly to think that we're making decisions here based upon how we might get compensated, because I know there isn't anything happening under the table with these agencies. And here we are as an august board trying to figure out how to provide transportation to people who desperately need it. And yet we're just scratching and clawing for those resources. I did serve on the FAC board. I know Arun. I know the people that serve on that board are highly respectable people who are, again, just working to be able to provide services that people desperately need. That said, I support the staff's recommendation because we have bent over backwards to try and provide FAC with the resources that they need at the expense of some other nonprofits that are trying to do the same damn thing. And so once again, I find myself in a position of having to make a decision that is going to cost some people their ride. And it just breaks my heart. But I seconded this motion, and I think that it's time to go by the rules. And if our rules suck, then we just need to figure out how to change those rules.
I think we're ready for the vote, but let me make my short comment on this. I think Mayor Krantz's comments are really to the point. We really don't have enough funding for these programs, and particularly in the specialized transportation category. And I don't fault Arun and FAC for doing what they can to help their organization. I think if all these organizations that are seeking funding actually get together and lobby for additional funding, that will be energy well spent. And I think for SANDAG ourselves, we need to do that as well within our lobbying efforts. So that's what I hope we take from this. I'll be supporting the motion as well. One last comment, Councilman Duncan.
Thank you. So I agree with all your comments, Mayor Krantz, and everybody's comments in regard to pretty much the situation. I just wanted to state that this situation was a little bit different. I know there was a public comment on it too, so I just wanted to make sure the timeline and the story is what we all know, right? Which is factual, that they were not awarded the grant at the time that the grants were awarded, right? So that wasn't that it was awarded at that time when other matching funds were potentially available. It was because of that not being awarded that this committee and also the SANDAG Board of Directors asked the staff to please see if there was a way they could find funding. As kind of was pointed out in a somewhat different way, but the same actual conclusion is really what the staff came back and said was, we can't find any other funding. There just isn't really any other funding available, or we're struggling to find it, was what we were told. And then eventually it was months later, right, when the staff came back and said, okay, there is another grant that the grantee is unable to utilize, that we can now, as that grant's being returned, we can now award that grant to FACT, which is the grant that we're talking about now. So I think the timeline created some certain circumstances which sort of ended up in this situation. It was a one-off situation. I don't really recall something like this happening before the direction of the committee or of the board of directors. So I just want to make sure it was clear is my understanding. And if staff, has a different understanding, please let me know if I'm wrong, that this came about later. And I understand staff's position that, hey, but it was the grant that was made back then where those, and those funds aren't in existence. So obviously board members will vote how they feel is best, but this was a very different one-off situation as opposed to getting a grant back whenever those were awarded months before and then saying, oh no, we want to keep it but not match 50. We only want to match 20 now. That's not what happened.
Understood. Just with regards to the timing of these grant programs, all of them have start and end dates. They didn't work out. Other grant recipients or organizations were dealing with the same timelines. They were not afforded flexibility or amendments to the requirements. And I think that's why, for me, I think we need to be consistent with that process. If we had more flexibility, it would be great, because then all organizations would be able to find ways to better match grant programs so that it doesn't hurt these organizations.
I mean, I'm not really sure what you're saying. I know there's been multiple times where grantees have asked for changes and or they have been granted. I'm not.
Typically, they're for extensions of a grant, so they can complete the grant.
Right, like they get on a watch list, they then fix the problem.
They're not asking to be relieved of a matching requirement of a grant program.
Right, I would ask the staff, is there any law or other agency or funding source that has a rule that make a change to 20% instead of 50% match not valid? Like the FTA or what?
No, it's valid under FTA. And to not get into all the nuances, but because of FACT and the way that they provide their service, we were able to reclassify their type of project from what originally was submitted, which required that 50% match, to a different type, which has a 20% threshold. So that's the only reason we can bring that to you today to lower that match, is because we have a delta that the FTA permits, and it allows us the opportunity. Most of our grants don't have that ability to be reclassified, so they can't change their match. They can't request it because it would fall below what the FTA requires.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead and vote.
That motion does pass with 7 yeses and 1 no.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is item number 8, draft 2025 Regional Transportation Improvement Program. We have Richard to make the presentation for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, Transportation Committee members. I'm here today with item 8, which is the draft 2025 Regional Transportation Improvement Program, or RTIP. As a reminder, the RTIP is developed and adopted every 2 years, and the current 2023 RTIP was adopted in September of 2022. The RTIP is a 5-year program of projects that implements the projects in the regional plan, which is the long-term planning document. Again, this item is for the biannual update of the RTIP for the 2025 RTIP, which will cover fiscal years 2025 through 2029. The set of projects included in the 2025 RTIP was developed in coordination with member agencies, including Caltrans, MTS, NCTD, and other agencies that have transportation projects within the San Diego region. It includes a total of 519 projects, including 399 projects carried over from the 2023 RTIP, 13 new projects, and 120 projects that are listed as completed, deleted, or delayed. The ITOC reviewed the draft 2025 RTIP at the July 10th meeting and had no comments. Attachment 2 on page 561 of your report provides a summary of the entire program with major SANDAG and Caltrans investments organized by corridor to align with the regional vision. SANDAG and Caltrans corridor projects reflect the funding levels in the fiscal year 2025 capital improvement program that was approved by the board on May 10th, 2024. The corridors include all projects that would make up the multimodal corridor, including highway, transit, and multimodal projects. This report shows all funding by fund type, including prior funds expended, which shows a total program of about $22 billion. Since major projects can remain in the RTIP for a long time, while they are in the final stages of plant establishment and financial closeout, we have placed these into a category called substantially completed projects. In addition to the corridors, this report includes categories for operations and maintenance, active transportation, local improvements, and transportation systems and demand management. To provide additional insight into how funding is split by mode, we've also included attachment 3 on page 562 as a visual representation showing that 22% of programming is being applied to highway and multimodal facilities, and 12% is for transit. For this chart, multimodal includes HOV and managed lanes and connectors, transit priority lanes, and the CMCPs. The draft quantitative emissions analyses for the draft 2025 RTIP and for the conformity redetermination for the amended 2021 regional plan have been conducted, and the draft results indicate that both meet the air quality conformity requirements. These results can be found in attachment 4. Based on feedback from the Social Equity Working Group and in line with the U.S. Department of Transportation Equity Action Plan, and to fulfill a commitment made to the board, SANDAG has performed a social equity analysis on the projects programmed in the 2025 RTIP. The results of this analysis are being finalized and will be presented when we come back with the proposed final RTIP in the fall. The results and methodology will also be included in more detail in Appendix G of the draft 2025 RTIP document. Pending board approval of the release of the draft 2025 RTIP, a public hearing will be tentatively scheduled for the September 20th Transportation Committee meeting. SANDAG is required to submit the final 2025 RTIP to the state by September 30th of this year after undergoing the necessary public review process. So today, the Transportation Committee is asked to recommend that the Board of Directors accept the draft 2025 Regional Transportation Improvement Program, including its air quality conformity analysis and the draft air quality conformity redetermination of the revenue-constrained regional plan for distribution for a 30-day public comment period, and also schedule the public hearing for the September 20th Transportation Committee meeting. And that concludes my report, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Richard. Let's move on to public comment.
Thank you, Chair. First commenter will be Alan C., followed by the original draw.
Yeah, good morning, board again. Yeah, I'm looking at attachment 3. Am I reading this right? Corridors multimodal completed 0.3%. Completed corridors highway 22%. The biggest part of the pie at 44% is operation and maintenance. What does that mean? We've got only 0.3% of roads completed out of transit that we've been promised since 1988 to expand the freeways. Yet you're putting more money into bike lanes, bat caves, and all this nonsense. All I ask this board to do this November, when you put that sales tax, additional sales tax, because by the way, transit doesn't expire to 2044, so we got a second sales tax. How about tell the truth this time? Put down what you're actually wasting our tax money on. I yield back.
Our next commenter will be the original draw, followed by Blair Beekman.
Substantially complete. You guys are funny. We're going to create a new category and put substantially complete so we can look like we're moving the needle forward. When you sit here and you're talking about improvements, just like Alan's talking about, it's like so many things have been promised to the people and none of that's happening. And then you want to just take more and more of our money to act like you're improving things. And it isn't. It's not improving things where drivers can actually get around easier. You're literally doing this to de-incentivize driving because you want us out of our cars. So you're going to sit here and make empty promises that for decades that have never been fulfilled and continue to, virtue signal like you're actually improving people's ability to get around, when it as impeding on it, when you take away lanes, when you lower the speed limit, when you take away parking, when you're not fixing the roads. And then you're spending, you know, billions of dollars on bike lanes that no one uses. And it's like, I mean, yeah, you could go up 20 something %. But that's like, that could be a person or two. I mean, it's ridiculous the way that you guys talk about stuff.
Our next speaker will be Blair Beekman, and Blair will be the final commenter.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Theme for the day for myself, theme for my life at this time. Good luck with tech accountability, its guidelines, its open public policies and practices, and public participation. It really offers a really holistic, positive, good choice for our future of how to address our future, how to work towards positive sustainability and a holistic approach that, I mean, it addresses not only, you know, issues of like this, but how do we talk about the future of our SANDAG agenda item issues? It helps accountability issues across the board with a number of subjects. It's really hopeful work, friendly reminder of it. Good luck in your efforts to want to include it in your lives and how you think about issues. Thank you.
That concludes the public comments.
Thank you. Do we have any member comments? Councilman Duncan.
Thank you. I just wanted a clarification, Mr. Radcliffe, on your comments. You mentioned something, and I didn't see it in here, and I know maybe you were talking prospectively, but I just wanted to get your comment, make sure I understood it. You said something that there was like a social equity analysis done regarding air quality. Can you explain to me what that means or what effect that has on this matter in front of us today?
So the social equity analysis, is actually, I believe, more related to the funding investments that are reflected in the RTIP and the different communities or areas in the region that are also determined to be social equity communities that are affected by those investments.
So is what you're saying, you can have, you know, really bad, I'll just use these numbers, you know, make them up. You say you have a 9 level of bad air in one community, and maybe in another community they have bad air, but it's a 7, but because of some social equity issues, the funding would be steered to the less bad, but still bad air over the other community that has worse air, but because they're not under whatever the definition is, social equity community?
I can go ahead and take this question. There's 2 separate analyses. There's the federal air quality analysis, which is before you today, and there's a social equity analysis. They're different. So the social equity analysis is really just an analysis of where the investments are being made in the region and how much of those investments are in our social equity communities. That is not part of the presentation today or part of your staff report today. We'll bring that back at a later time. That's something that the board had requested we do. I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. So this is the second time we've done that in our TIP. The air quality analysis before you today is separate from the social equity analysis, and we are required to do that by the federal government.
No, I think I understood all that before I asked my question. My question is, what is the analysis, the social justice equity analysis, and what effect does it have? I mean, this is the, what are we, I mean, in just plain language, what are we being asked to do today? To approve the draft 2025 Regional Transportation Improvement Program, right? The RTIP or something. So including its including, but it doesn't say limited to, its air quality conformity analysis and draft air quality conformity redetermination. So you're saying there's going to be another action that is also approving the Regional Transportation Improvement Program, but separately the social equity part of it?
Social equity is informational only. There's no approval of the social equity analysis. It's just the board had asked us to provide that information with the RTIP, so that'll be coming to you in September.
Okay, so then the answer to that specific question I asked would be no, it's not going to change the funding on the hypothetical I presented, and that's not actually the case. It's doesn't affect the spending or the funding whatsoever. It actually is just informational. Is that your answer?
Correct.
Okay, thank you for answering the question.
Any other comments or questions? But before I entertain a motion to go with staff recommendations, I have some questions as well. And it's somewhat tied to Councilman Duncan's point. And I know we're dealing with the our current regional transportation plan and federal guidelines. But I can't forget, or I'm reminded, because I also work with Air Pollution Control District, that in various areas like ozone, on an 8-hour basis, we don't meet, or we won't be meeting federal and state attainment levels as we go into the future. This is from our current APCD annual report. Ozone for 1 hour, we're not going to be obtaining the state levels. We're not going to obtain attainment for state PM10 or I'm sorry, 1.0. That's a smaller particulate matter, and particulate matter 2.5. We're not going to attain it as well. And I know for this purposes of this report and obtaining okay from the federal government, we've met those needs. But I just want to point out that there are other benchmarks that our region is not obtaining, getting attainment, as well as we get this failing grade from the American Lung Association. And on top of that, this board, the governing board, has addressed issues of trying to have at least our next regional transportation plan reduce health impacts as one of our goals. And we don't have a mark for that, Councilman Duncan. I think that's what you're pointing out is we report on where the money goes and that there's some equity involved with the funding, but we don't have a benchmark to try to reach with regards to improving air quality, other than these attainment levels that some of them we're not going to be meeting, both at least the state level and federal level for one of the items. So I'm happy with this particular report. I think it meets federal requirements and state requirements, meets CEQA. We have a good distribution of funding, or at least we know where the money is going, thanks to your report. But whether or not we're doing our job in terms of creating a better world, better region with transportation and healthier people, I think we're not quite there yet. We have ways to go there, and we've been in that situation for many decades, unfortunately, and that's why we have some people a lot sicker than others, as we learned from our last joint meeting on health impacts. With that, if there aren't any other points or questions, I'm ready for a motion to move this item forward.
So moved.
So move, and seconded by Councilmember Campillo. Oh, who seconded? I'm sorry, did I miss? It was Frank? So corrected, it's Brak Patel and Frank Bertasson.
That motion does pass unanimously with those members present.
Thank you. We're moving along in our agenda quite well. So our next item is number 9, Smart Growth Incentive Program Criteria. And we have Jenny, Lizzie, Stacy, 3. Great.
There we go. Now that we have the right names in front of us. So hello again. For this item, I'm joined by my colleague, Stacy Cooper. She is a senior planner in our Sustainable Communities team, and we're here to talk about a different grant program, the Smart Growth Incentive Program, or SGIP. So SGIP is a competitive grant program that's funded exclusively by the Transnet Ordinance, and it provides funding for planning efforts and transportation-related infrastructure improvements that support smart growth development. The overall goal of the SGIP is to provide funding for a broad array of transportation-related improvements that will assist local agencies in better integrating transportation and land use. Smart Growth is a compact, efficient, and environmentally sensitive urban development pattern. It focuses future growth and development close to jobs, services, and public facilities to maximize the use of existing infrastructure and preserve open space and natural resources. Smart growth is characterized by more compact, higher density development in urbanized areas throughout the region. So we've held 5 cycles of the SGIP, beginning with cycle 1 in 2009 and concluding with our most recent cycle, cycle 5 in 2022. And the cycle numbers, years, and amounts are shown on this slide, which demonstrates an overall investment of about $60 million to the region since the program began. There have been more than 70 planning and capital projects awarded funding through this program, and it's also been able to leverage an additional $47 million in other funding, representing a total investment of over $100 million to our region. So there's some images on here from a few of our mostly recent completed projects from the cities of Chula Vista, San Marcos, Lemon Grove, and San Diego. Other examples not mentioned on this slide are traffic calming projects, pedestrian promenades, curb gutter and sidewalk improvements, and planning projects funded from the past include developing innovative financing mechanisms, mixed use and commercial corridor plans, transit center connections, and complete street design manuals. And I'll turn things over to Stacy to talk about changes we're looking at for the upcoming program.
Thank you, Jenny. So the Smart Growth Incentive Program is open to the cities in the county of San Diego. Before the 2021 regional plan, Smart Growth Opportunity Areas, or SGOAs, were identified as areas of growth for the land use strategy portion of the regional plan. To be eligible for SGIP funding, a project needed to be located in or include an SGOA. With the 2021 Regional Plan and Sustainable Community Strategy, we moved away from previously identified SGOAs to focus development in mobility hubs. Not all jurisdictions have a mobility hub, so instead of a location constraint in this cycle, the project must further smart growth principles to be competitive, and extra points will be awarded for being located in a mobility hub. Three grant categories will be available: climate action planning, so that's preparing or updating CAPS and GHG reduction plans. Planning includes plans and process that accelerate smart growth, and capital, so projects that will eventually result in the construction of a public improvement. So for this cycle, we have approximately $35 million available. We're looking to put $25 million of that towards capital, $7 million towards planning, and $3 million towards climate action planning. And you can see the minimum and maximum on the screen, and those are also included in your packet. So our anticipated timeline, so we're here today talking to you guys. We've already been to the Sustainable Communities, Social Equity, and Mobility Working Groups to talk through the criteria. We will also be going to the Regional Planning Committee. We will be back to TC in October for a recommendation to the board. After it is approved by the board, the call for projects will be released in November, and in March through April, the applications will be due. Then we'll be back with funding recommendations in about May, June, or July, and then we will issue the notice to proceed. And I'll pass it back to Jenny to talk through the criteria.
So attachment 1 includes the draft criteria and the scoring rubric that we're proposing for your feedback today. I'll go over them briefly, along with some additional changes we're making to the program for this upcoming cycle. So the tables on this slide provide a summary of the criteria for planning and capital projects. The criteria are mostly the same, with the exception of an additional criteria for A under the capital category, which provides points for projects as they progress through the capital milestones. So planning, environmental, design, right-of-way, et cetera. SANDAG requires that our local jurisdictions have an adopted climate action plan to receive our grant funding. So this category of funding has been offered for 2 different types of projects. First is for any agency that has yet to adopt a climate action plan and needs funding to develop it, or for an agency to update their CAP. Eligible activities besides the CAP itself can also include a GHG emissions inventory, GHG emission forecasts and reduction targets, or GHG reduction measures. The scope of these projects will all be evaluated in that criteria 1. The second type of project is for agencies who have a cap, but they're seeking funding for implementation or monitoring of their cap, as shown in criteria 2. So this project type is really relevant just to the cap only. So if there's an implementation project or planning project coming out of a cap, those would be applied in the other 2 categories that we have. So the planning category and the capital category. We have SANDAG Board Policy 33, which outlines how projects that are submitted through the SGIP receive points related to housing. The policy requires that 25% of the entire points available are derived from this criteria and is driven through 2 different sub-criteria that are weighted equally, and they're shown here on this slide. Every 3 years, the Independent Taxpayer Oversight Committee, or ITOC, conducts a performance audit of how our Transnet funding is used. The most recent audit was completed earlier this year, and the audit recommendations are shown on this slide. Many of these are administrative changes to how we document our projects, and these are things that my team will be doing behind the scene as projects are implemented. But the ones I wanted to highlight for you are in the first 2 boxes there on the left that are to ask that our applicants have more detailed project scopes of work and to have performance measures for each of our projects. Other changes to be made to the upcoming cycle include the process changes that are shown on this slide. And these were the items that we discussed last year that help provide greater transparency to the process and to distribute our funding more broadly across the region. And this concludes our presentation. We're looking for feedback today from you on the criteria or any of the other call elements that have been proposed, and looking forward to having a discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Do we have any public comments?
Thank you, Chair. We do. Alan C. will be first, followed by the original draw.
I'd like to share one smart growth failure in Chula Vista. Broadway, the main thoroughfare, some of the blocks went from 2 lanes to 1 lane, but the problem is the 2 lanes and then immediately past the stoplight is 1 lane. Cars race each other to immediately merge over to 1 lane. As I pointed out earlier, that slide 3 where you got the green paint, bicyclists swerve in front of the cars. Well, here on Chula Vista, Broadway, 2 lanes stop the stoplight, immediately merge to 1 lane. Cars race each other, endangering the bicyclists as well as the passengers because the cars up ahead in the 1 lane are all backed up. I know my daughter got rear-ended by one of them because of that situation. Why don't you make the right-hand lane when you have that merge, force them to turn right instead of 2 lanes where cars race each other to get over to the 1 lane? Look at that, because I know you're trying to put bike lanes, but bike lanes on Broadway is asinine, endangering the bicyclists. It should have been put on 4th Avenue, but you're endangering everybody. I yield back.
Our next speaker will be the original draw, followed by Blair Beekman.
I feel like you need to rename so you're transparent with the people that these are 15-minute cities. Incentivizing that. So not smart growth incentive program, but 15-minute city incentive program. And everything that you're doing, I mean, just like Alan is talking about, but when you're taking away a lane, it makes no sense that you guys think that you're going to save any greenhouse gases when people are in traffic more and more congested when you're taking away a lane. If you open things up, people can go more freely, have more opportunity to get to a place without having to be stopped and going slower, looking for more parking spots and using more gas and creating more, whatever you want to call GHGs, going around and looking for more stuff. So everything that you're doing, you're not making complete streets, you're making incomplete streets. You're making it impossible for people to get around. And it's intentional because you want us in a 15-minute city. So you need to be transparent with the people and tell them what you're actually doing. De-incentivizing from traveling outside of that. And one day you're going to need a permit just to leave.
Our final speaker will be Blair Beekman. You can go ahead.
Hi, Blair Beekman. To try to connect this item to the previous item, this is important stuff. Thank you. I think in the future of smart growth plans, smart city planning, we always have to offer and consider the idea of tech accountability. Believe it or not, those 2 concepts need to kind of work hand in hand in how we think of the issue. That's responsibility. That's really creating a trusting, sharing environment for everyone in the future of these projects. I think it's really the way to go. It can really help with, I think, current issues, how you're dealing with Otay Mesa border issues. To talk about tech accountability invites openness and clarity for other issues around the border. That's important. Good luck in environmental incentives. We're really dealing with serious issues of Imperial Beach and Chula Vista. It's becoming national headlines about the Tijuana River Valley area. It's becoming big, so we got to get ready for that and prepare well. So good luck how we can be doing that work. Thank you.
That concludes the public comments on this item.
Do we have any comments or questions from committee members? Going once, going twice. Jenny, you know, you happen to have the city of Encinitas and La Mesa here, the two competing cities with the best climate action plans in our region. Not that the city of San Diego doesn't have a good climate action plan, or at least certainly pioneered climate action plans in our region. So you do have some competing interests here in trying to make that a vital part of the criteria as we go forward with smart cities. Do you have any other comments? If not, I have my usual list of comments and questions. From one of the previous items on the agenda, I really liked the slide showing a bike project, showing the results from a bike project, reducing traffic speed, reducing VMT, increasing bike use and pedestrian use by a significant amount. I mean, 26.8%, 25%. One of the comments when the Smart Growth grant program was initiated years ago was public members saying, they just seem to beautify a neighborhood and help businesses. They don't seem to do anything else. And I think that was a good comment. It was a valid comment. We beautify corners and communities, but we don't really know whether or not we had an effect on that in terms of transportation use, making that part of that neighborhood safer, better increasing health or reducing health impacts and reducing accidents and whatever. I think that's, to me, really important as we go forward with the criteria and then we go forward. With regards to climate action plans, climate action plans have changed, and since they were initiated, and our targets have also changed with regards to when we may have shied away from mode share. The first climate action plans for the city of San Diego had pretty strong emphasis on mode share shifts. I don't know if we're going to go back to that. I hope we do. But the main problem is we don't measure it. I would also point out the current standard for what we need to do with regards to climate action plans by each of our jurisdictions, as pointed out by the scoping plan from CARB, the 2022 scoping plan, which is and I know this board and many of you have heard me say this a few times before, but I'll repeat it again, 25% VMT reduction by 2030, which equates to 3 to 4% VMT reduction per capita starting actually this year, if we're going to meet that target. So to me, that should be a vital part of what we want our climate action plans to do, and should be a benchmark for our criteria as we look for climate action plans from the applicants for these funding. That should be a target, and they should show methodologies, means in which they can reach those targets. There are many ways to reach those targets that don't need a lot of money or may not need any money. And this is something I hope the Transportation Committee will take up in a future item on our meeting, which has to deal with transportation demand management strategies, which we have lots of good planners that have lots of expertise in that area. So we can talk about that. So we can meet these targets. I believe we can meet these targets. And for that matter, we really need to. That's what the state law is with SB 32. So I hope that's something that we incorporate in this criteria And having this grant program provides cities incentives to, of course, work that into their plan and to see if they can achieve them. Any other comments? If not, I'm ready to entertain a motion. Mayor Krantz.
Yes, as long as La Mesa accomplished the most in implementing their climate action plan, we'll be hearing about it from the chair. And being second sometimes is pretty frustrating, but it's still good that Encinitas has managed to accomplish a lot as well. I did have one question about planning. What the definition of planning is design and engineering included in that?
No, so the difference is if it's going to result in a capital project, so if you're doing planning that will turn into a project specific, then those are capital, and capital projects could fund planning or any phase of it.
But if we're updating a specific plan or something like that, that's
a planning. Exactly.
Okay. Thank you. Did you move the approval on this or?
I was mistaken. We don't need a motion on this. This is just informational item. We do have, I think, one general non-agendized public comment if that is up. So if there aren't any other questions or points to be made on this item, thank you, Jenny and Stacy, for a presentation. I'll just add one more. When I mentioned the scoping plan from the state, from CARB, in their 2022 scoping plan, and those reduction targets for VMT reduction and a slew of other items, that is part of SB 32, which is state law, which is something that all CEQA documents have to at least address, if not develop an alternative to meet those targets, which that becomes a legal question and challenges, but that's currently what CEQA now requires, is addressing all those plans. So I hope we take that to note that it is not a target that is aspirational, it is a legal target. Thank you. So Francesca, we can go back to public comments.
Thank you. Robert's at the podium. And I'll let you know when your time has expired. You can go ahead when you're ready.
And this is an overview of Miramar Airport, shows the freeway access, and the purple are parallel train tracks. The second one is what possibly could be done at Miramar as a new world airport with just the guesswork down below. Purple, again, are parallel train tracks. The third slide is to the front door of Miramar MCAS. Right now, you have 3 train tracks going in there to service the airport. This is your transportation hub, not downtown. UT published an article by Michael Smollins, said that we will never have rail service to the airport, to Lindbergh. It's ridiculous we're putting all this money. I shouldn't say it. How can I say this nice way? It's ridiculous that we're putting all this money in the airport at Lindbergh. And it's because we have one airport agency. The airport should be under SANDAG, like it was 15 years ago or more. But they created their own airport authority and nobody checks them. Nobody checks the balance.
Your time has expired.
Thank you for waiting for this.
Thank you so much for that final comment. Any last comments for any members? If not, I would like to relinquish my chairship to the vice chair, who could make a closing comment for today's meeting.
Thank you. I asked for the opportunity to adjourn this meeting today in honor of a constituent named Dan Tota. I got to know Dan through my service on the NCTD board as we struggled with air transit services. We had some reduction in service that was available to him, increased costs. He is a man that had diabetes and became blind and had limbs amputated, but he recently passed away. We all know him because he came frequently whenever a fact item was on the agenda because he was very dependent upon fact for his transportation. And he was always very good at reminding me of how critical public transit is to people who are disabled and elderly. And so it was tragic that he passed. It was related apparently to his diabetes. And so with that, I would like to adjourn today's meeting in honor of Dan Tota. Thank you.
Thank you.